Since its inception in 1966, Satanism has been a part of an influential force in the Western counterculture. At the time, it was part of the post-World War II theater of the absurd, and would also be one of the driving factors behind and within the aesthetic terrorist generation. Satanism turned its back on the mainstream culture and its platitudes from sterile and strained ideals. Christianity, the hippies, gobbledygook occultniks. It was exactly what the word Satan means in the literal definition: adversarial. It was against the self-deception of the society surrounding a harsh truth, basically. The culture being criticized can be found characterized in the album Portrait of an American Family by the aesthetic terrorist and Church of Satan Reverend Marilyn Manson. It was and is a culture which needs to hold up a facade of righteous do-gooders. The White House with the picket fence, suburban pipe dreams. Satanism, as explained by Shane Bugbee, is a form of thought for the working class to escape its restricting confines. Then, on another strain of thought to this, Boyd Rice viewed Satanism as the polar opposite of the values presented by liberal and democratic institutions of the West, which twin those of Judeo-Christian values. And within various essays and articles by Michael Rose compiled in the book Infernalia, the sentiments against the mainstream ideals and institutions in favor of a stratified aristocracy, he consistently rails against the common morals and concepts which only really serve to artificially subsidize and prolong decadent lives. And as likely already evident, Satanism is a rebellion against the egalitarian, the unnatural, the unnatural, though does not claim siding with aristocracy or any political agenda other than to tax the churches to the fullest and letting nature take its proper course, which see the 5-point pentagonal plan and 2 wrongs make a right from the Devil's Notebook. Political standpoints are up to personal opinion. Satanism is a tool for the individual to best live their lives, not a dictator of personal politics. Satanism is a scattered group of individualists in a world of collectivists and their views. This naturally creates an adversarial view counter to those of the majority. And following the massacre at Columbine High School in 1999, Curtin Church of Satan High Priest Peter H. Gilmore wrote and released an article which can be found in his book entitled Victors and Victims from West Memphis to Columbine. In this essay, he states the entire point of what I'm talking about here. Quote, "We are not as they are. Satanists see themselves as being aliens when compared to what we perceive to be a herd of vapid simians who surround us. This, in essence, can be reflected in the Patti Smith song Rock and Roll Nigger. Many other pieces in his book go into detail on his explanations, and the recommended other 2 best suited in reference to the topic of this would be alienation and the fascism question. When tracing Satanism throughout its history, one finds the counterculture aspect of it right in front of their nose. From the onset, it was a stone in the water, and it caused a ripple that continues to make waves tangibly to this day. One person in the counterculture during the 1960s reportedly told Shane Bugbee that when LaVey hit, he hit big. And it's true. just read any number of the pieces on the history of Satanism. Then, in her final interview, Carla LaVey, who is still alive but says she is not doing any more interviews, described how her house was a home haven even for those counter to the norm. All this goes to show that the counterculture component of Satanism has and always will be a part of it. It's inseparable, and it is true that what is underground eventually bubbles up to the surface, but with Satanism, it's wise to stay out of such. I mean, the word Satan in of itself is a word scarier to Nazi than the large portion of the world, and Satanists have experienced actual threats to their well-being, being run out of towns, their houses burnt down, and lest we forget the Satanic Panic. Of course, Satanists aren't a victimized minority, though. I mean, the title is taken knowing full well the social trends and feeling towards it. Satanists can't be nailed to a wall, and such is encapsulated well in the line from Anatole France's Revolt of the Angels, saying, God conquered will become Satan, Satan conquering will become God. You can't be against a dualistic system if you play it by its rules. Satanism takes the realistic route instead of black and white thinking and pigeonholing oneself into ludicrous one or the other scenarios. Satanists break the box in terms of thinking within and outside of it, then make it into something new, solvet coagula. Satanism is also, by its very name, not for everyone. So it becoming mainstream and above ground and part of the norm is quite antithetical, as well as quite clearly counterproductive to anyone who remembers the Satanic Panic. That Satanism is below ground. When it becomes mainstream, a regular topic, it starts a hysteria and causes more destructive and counterproductive things to happen to basically everyone, and especially those of more alternative trends, whether they're Satanists or not. I mean, remember the West Memphis 3, or the longest trial, or one of the longest and most expensive trials in U.S. history based on a bogus claim from an alcoholic mother, which led to the McMartin preschool trial. Satanism has a stigma unlikely to ever go away, and gladly so, for prior mentioned reasons. Unlike stigmatized things in the past, for example, homosexuality, believing the Earth wasn't the center of the galaxy ad infinitum, which could be largely destigmatized through exposure therapy. Satanism had its exposure, and then a moral panic hit, which, pretty much solidified that, no, it's really not a good idea to make Satanism a mainstream thing. It should, stay behind the shadows and work its thing, And, any attempts to make Satanism some beacon of good are, in reality, people with the good guy badge or bottom feeders. They're identity vampires looking for identity and attention and nothing more. And, yeah, Satanism is counterculture and will always be part of it for such.